Good morning. It is 10 a.m. on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please rise, Commissioner Buchanan will give our invocation.
Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for your many blessings. Thank you for all you do for us. Just continue, Lord, to lay your hand on our country, on our state, and on our county, Lord. Help us, Lord, in making the right decisions for the county. Give us the wisdom to do what's right in your eyes and do what's best for the taxpayers of Wichita County. Lord, just continue to be with us. Thanks again for the rain and the beautiful weather we've been having, and I just pray, Lord, that you continue to be with us in our walk. All this I pray through your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Would you join us in the pledge of the U.S. flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, everyone, you may be seated. We do not have any presentations to make this morning. Wow. I think we loaded up last week to do 4 weeks of them. So at this time, it is 10:02. We will open up for public comment. As a reminder, we ask that folks keep their comments limited to 5 minutes or less, and no action can be taken by Commissioners Court on any item brought up during public comment. Do we have any public comment this morning?
I will like to say one thing.
Okay.
Good social media. I learned on social media yesterday that we had Precinct 2 had another possible bridge failure. We went out and checked it, and there is some issues with the bridge that we're going to have to address. And the reason I bring this up in public comments is just because it's such a overwhelming amount of money that it costs the county when one of these bridges is affected like this. So I'm just saying this as a public comment to let the citizens know I'm aware of it. This one is it's in Cameron Gardens. It'll be something we'll be checking into, investigating a little bit further, and I really hope it doesn't come to the point where I have to shut down the road, which I have on another bridge right now while we're waiting to figure out what to do with that. So just letting that get out there.
Yeah. And also just a reminder that anyone who sees anything happening around where they live, or road or bridge, probably a good idea to call your county commissioner to let them know so they don't have to find out about it on social media.
Yes, I would rather get a call and say, hey, come check this out. I'd love to be out there and try to fix it instead of learning about it via social media.
Yeah. And I mean, y'all get out and your crew and y'all are both driving the roads constantly, but sometimes you just don't see stuff. So, all right. Do we have any other public comment this morning? Okay. It is 10:04. Public comment is closed. So at this time, let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of the items on the consent agenda?
It's pretty straightforward. I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll say.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Mahler, seconded by Commissioner Buchanan to approve the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the motion or any of the items? Okay, then that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 3-0. All right, so now we go to general business, item number 1. Let me get my documents out here.
Public hearing.
Yes. For a public hearing regarding intention of Wichita County to consider adoption of proposed regulations of subdivisions. It is 10:05, and we will begin the public hearing. Morning, Commissioner.
Sorry, guys.
So it's 10:05 a.m. We open this public hearing. I'll introduce first and then open up for input from commissioners and, the public. Just as a little bit of background, Commissioners Court began work on creating a set of subdivision regulations for Wichita County quite a while before even I took office. I think y'all started that in 2021, maybe 2022. I know because I've sat out in the audience for a number of them. In 2022, there were a lot of Friday sessions to go through the proposed regulations, make modifications, make revisions. And then those continue to be improved. And last April, this body adopted a set of subdivision regulations. However, I think it was, we talked at the time, we knew it was going to be a working document, would need to make changes to it. And so that's led us to today, where we wanted to have a public hearing and talk about potential ideas for improvements to the subdivision regulations. I know that I have gotten feedback from some local engineers, home builders, surveyors, professionals in this sphere who they've got some concerns, they've got some things they'd like us to look at more in depth on some of these, on our regulations. And with that said, we still want to have the public hearing. We still want to get input from anyone who would like to offer it. I do think that it would be a good idea for us to put together a committee with stakeholders, with folks who are both professionals, public interest, commissioner or two on the committee, to really get in the weeds and look in detail at the regulations, and then come back with a recommendation to this body for some broader changes.
Judge, yesterday, the Bowles side of the equation and the Walksman side of the equation all had great ideals, and I don't know, so, I would default to a builder type, and Kerry wasn't, all of the changes are just things that I've specifically said address, and then he just thought that maybe we already, but there's things that they brought out, they were just things that needed to be changed that weren't even, and I told them we want to do everything within our power to do the right thing, and y'all know we just want to build from 100 years and it be right.
Yeah, it is not the goal of the Commissioners Court to inhibit development.
And they all understood, and here's what scares me. So we can bring the experts to the board and they fix the policy, but me and Barry and Mark and Mickey and you, we have to explain it to the person that wants to do it, and so we can't afford to miss either, because it's twice as hard for me to understand all of it, and I have to digest it 1,000,000 times before I can, because the first person they're gonna call and say, well, explain that to me.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
so maybe we should have, they all want to come. Andy said, why don't we just have, like, I bring 10 different guys that have a piece of, and then maybe we set specific times that we collectively meet, because I'm afraid I'll forget to tell somebody something that is hard for me to fully grasp. Like the Wichita Valley water stuff, that's what Andy wanted to know about. Well, that's cakewalk for me. But then when it comes to other things, I don't know, should the curb be 12 inches or 6
Right.
inches? Mickey knows that, and I don't even have a clue.
Well, and that's why I think that, so we're going to conduct the public hearing today. And of course, we won't take action on it till our next item on the agenda. But I do think it would be, best for all of us to put together a committee to iron out what that's going to look like, go through some of the changes, be able to explain it, and because it is an in the weeds regulation document put together by a court, that's not what we do all the time.
Right.
So a lot of guys who go to a lot of school and spend a lot of time knowing how to do that.
And there's pieces that you know by heart, and then there's pieces that are totally Greek. So
So with that said, at this time, first I'd like to open up for commissioner input. If y'all have anything like to say or address.
I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
And as far as the builders and the architects, surveyors, stuff like that, Wichita County does not want to pass any kind of ordinance or law that doesn't take into everybody's concerns. We'd rather have all that up front instead of passing some kind of ordinance that y'all would have to come back and argue and fight. I've been involved with that in other government stuff before, and I really do not want that to happen here in Wichita County. We definitely want all y'all's input, so as much as y'all can put in writing, people that are not here, that have interest in this, definitely let us know, and we'll make it publicized when our meetings will be. So that's the biggest thing.
And two, I thought about it yesterday, Jim. Maybe we're trying to be comprehensive when we should just make a solid backbone, and every year add a little to it so that it becomes a growth thing. All we want is a solid, we want the water to be right, the house to be structurally sound, and everything else is just, and so by the time we get there, we're digesting something that, you know, so does the builder in Boston and Houston do.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're Wichita County, and so it gets so deep, and maybe I thought about it multiple times yesterday back and forth, that maybe we're trying to be way comprehensive. Bear in mind that this is something that Bob and Jim handed off to us and said, here's the things, change all the pieces. We've been changing and changing them back. Carries can go either direction. It's not bad, it's not good. It fits somebody, but maybe we just start with the bare minimum. Like what's coming out by me, I no doubt that it's solid. I don't think the houses are built wrong. I don't think, but we want to make sure that the consumer is got something good, and we don't want a subdivision that has a wrecking yard in it and a bowling alley and then $1 million home. You know, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents, and I'm not saying I know anything. I just think that maybe, you know, instead of working on it 10 years, we just get something that's the bare bone basic, and then every year add a paragraph that deals with the road or deals with the water line or deals with the fundamental.
Right.
Because we want Wichita to grow, and we want to have solid housing that is appreciative and attractive. And
Yeah, that's right. All right, so at this time, I'd like to open up for public input. If anyone has anything they'd like to say, I just ask that you come up to the podium, introduce yourself, and then offer comments if you have them. Does anyone have any public comment this morning? Going once?
let me ask, is this the takings, or is this separate and
No,
apart?
this is a public hearing for the actual subdivision regulations, proposed adoption of that.
Okay. Will we still do that procedure?
Yeah, so procedurally, if the court doesn't approve the regulations today, and we form a committee, they go to work, they come back with some recommendations, we'd have to start the process over again, doing a takings impact, 30-day notice on public hearing, have a public hearing, and then adopt. So
Does every time we change, do we have to do what's called a takings?
I talked about that with Melvin yesterday, and we do.
And none of us understand that, it's consumer and builder alike, but I guess we do it and we comply. And it's in essence basically saying we give people the right to argue and say we shouldn't do it this way. Is that basically what's happening? A takings, the definition of takings is explaining it to the public multiple times?
It's, and Melvin, you can step in here.
Well, it's
And
just any time that something possibly affects a landowner, the law requires us to do that. It's
Whether
pretty-
good or bad?
Yeah, and it's pretty, I think it's mandatory, and it doesn't really, it kind of a square peg to a round hole in this respect, but we still would have to do it, I think.
because if we proactively do anything that would inhibit a landowner's ability to do whatever they wanted with their property, that introduces a question of, okay, is that a taking? Now, that question is a little more specific and probably a question of fact, but
Now, we're only talking about Wichita County, rural, outside of incorporated areas. So it's a unique area. It has nothing to do with ETJs. It has nothing to do with inside a city limit.
Correct.
That's a complete different world.
yep.
So whether they're in Wichita County paying Wichita County taxes, we have absolutely zero to do with that.
If it's only in unincorporated areas, that's correct.
But what about
Including
city
ETJ.
limits? Who's the deep factor on that? Which side does it slope, or we mutually agree? And is there some obligation held because we said, okay, city, but, oh, you're a little bit guilty, but not.
Well, if you get into a municipality, they're governed by a completely different section of code on what they can and can't do with regulation of how the land is used.
But is it clear who's the ETJ and the extraterritorial jurisdiction? Is it the city always, or is it mutual understanding between us and them?
That's a question that, unless Melvin knows it off the top of his head,
Well,
we'll need to get back.
everything I've dealt with is a mutual understanding, and it's vague. And it's like that the city could do it or the county could do it, and they help each other, and there's not a clear-cut answer. But it's not, it's like whoever wanted to do it. Like out by me, the city wanted to do it, and Lee said, okay, you do it, and then they might next week be real busy and say, Lee, you do it.
And some of the ETJs stretch out quite a ways, and that's why I was wondering, you know, what part that played in it, because there were some of them that were expanded a number of years ago, I recall, to stop certain expansion of city limits, and there was a lot of that that went out.
Well,
Yeah.
so I've measured several times, Barry, from the stop sign on Watts Road to the city limit line at Iowa Parks, 2.5 to 2.6 miles. It's ETJ, but is that because of, I mean, I thought it was 1 mile for little cities, 5 miles for big cities,
Well,
or
it got
any
expanded.
combination in
There
between?
was a push on a number of years ago to take on some extra land into the ETJs, because there was some talk about, and I don't remember exactly what the scenario was. I guess Wichita Falls is gonna expand their city limits, and some of the smaller towns wanted to protect that. If
But I
remember,
thought-
Vicki, do you remember that?
I
That was
remember
a discussion,
exactly.
I remember that. But I don't know, I wasn't really involved in it at the time, didn't pay that much attention to it, but I do remember the discussion.
But I thought 5 miles was it, Barry. I mean, I thought 5 miles was the least and 5 miles was the greatest. Whether you're Houston or Wichita Falls, but it all dealt with over
Mel may-
150.
Mel may know about that.
Do you
more.
know, I mean, I'm just saying what I thought I knew, but I could not know anything.
I don't have a.
We can get those answers
Yeah,
and
and that's
send
something,
them out.
that's something we'll have to deal with. You know, what makes this so difficult is there's so many different scenarios out there. Exactly what scope of a subdivision would be, is there city water available, is there not? I mean, there's just a lot of things that go into it, which is why this is always gonna be a working document, I think, moving forward. So I think it's good that we're having that discussion and getting it out on the table. Cause we're a long way from probably where we need to be. Yeah. To really make it work. But you gotta start somewhere.
All right. Any public comment? Okay. It is now 10:18, and we will close this public hearing and move along to item number 2, which is take action to approve the proposed Wichita County subdivision regulations. I'm going to propose that we don't take any action today and come back, find a good representative group to put that committee together, and then bring a motion before the court to actually institute the committee
Right.
and who's on it and move forward from there. So I'm going to propose no
But-
action today.
But you know how much effort and how many times we met. And then after talking with Andy, I felt like
Nothing.
we just started.
Yep, I do. I do.
Is there anybody here today that's wanting to be involved on that committee or board?
Well, and what I would say is anyone listening, anyone in the audience today who wants to be on it, if you will just, if you'll note, you can either send an email to me, so jim.johnson at the county email address, or call the office, 940-766-8101. Indicate that you're interested. Heck, write us a letter, however you want to. Let us know that you're interested in doing it, because we're gonna have to keep it to a manageable size, obviously, but we would like to have a pretty broad stakeholder representation on that committee. So just let us know, and we'll put it together, make some phone calls, and then bring it before court to put together the committee.
Is there a step that we haven't implemented, like a observation stage, that at least if somebody, let's say that we spend 2 years and we refine it, and there's 7 subdivisions developed, can we at least be a part of that development in a way that notify us and let us review it so that we understand it exists?
Well, right now, because last April, this court adopted the regulations. So those are in place right now. So a development coming in, if that were to happen while this group is working, there is that regulatory structure is in place. This would be to hone that, refine it, make it better. And I don't think it will take 18 months or 2 years. I think that everyone's got an interest in doing something fairly quickly. And if we have the problem of a huge subdivision wanting to come in the next, while that happens, well, that's a good problem to have.
We could always make a variance in our subdivision ordinance to, if we wanted to accommodate anybody wanting to come in right now.
But here's where I get lost. My brother-in-law tells me yesterday about one that is nearly complete by him. I've got one that's been in the makings for 3 years and it slowly becomes a bigger one. But we've done nothing to say, here, take this, make sure, which I feel is, my brother-in-law feels absolutely nothing is correct. They're two different styles of, but I'm missing, do you show up and show the people? I mean, I don't even know the builder. Is there even a plan? Was it just a whim?
Well, if they started prior to the adoption of the regulations, they would have been grandfathered and would have worked under the no regulatory
But
structure.
so 1, 2, 3 are the ABC of what to do. Do we call Dwayne and say, would you go talk to somebody and see if you can get, it appears that they're wanting to do something. They're gonna be nice homes if everything goes right.
Well, I mean, to get the plat approval, if they were putting the plat out there to do it, that's how we would most likely know up front that something is happening, and that would have engaged the.
And here's what my brother-in-law said that even triggered me. He said they went into a piece of property, they put 10 down this side and 10 down this side. Well, the first thing I know is Wichita Valley can't provide water if they're side by side down into the property. They can on the first two, don't touch the rest of them. Well, how did that even occur? I mean, is there one meter and everybody's feeding off of it, or?
No, that's against the rules in the division. If I
Well,
remember
yeah, I
right.
mean, so I'm like, I don't even know for sure who to check with, and you call Carrie and you'd be like, well, Jeff, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I mean, so I'm lost in that, even that piece of it, Jim, as to where to get the expertise or who to hand it to that knows.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
fix.
that's gonna be a key
what we're
part
doing,
of what that body's gonna do is, because there's all sorts of questions that pop up of, so the county doesn't have a county engineer, so who is checking on that and compliance, and how will that work? And I think that's why we need a group of folks getting in the weeds on that.
Those are exactly the questions
Right.
we gotta ask. Yeah.
Okay, so does anyone have any, does anyone want to make a motion or take any action today on this?
No, I think that's a great plan, and I think go just the direction.
But we don't
We
need
just
to
need
approve them
No,
because they've
we
already
just-
been
no,
approved.
We just take no action,
Yeah, we did that a year ago, did we not?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then with no action taken, we will move along to item number 3.
Well, I will make the motion to ratify the minutes from May 14th, because we do
Second.
know about that,
I'll
and
second
17th. yeah.
Motion.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Mahler, seconded by Commissioner Watts, to approve and ratify the minutes of the May 14, 2024 regular session and May 17, 2024 special session. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, then the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 4-0. Item number 4, review and approve the regular bills for payment. Verify payroll taxes have been filed and order county treasurer to disperse payroll and/or bills within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office.
So I do have a question. I'll make that motion. Stephen, is there a check and balance? If this court approves 20 payments and only 17 is done, do we check off a list that says 20 were done, 20 were mailed? Or is there just, could there be a possibility that always there's 3 that never get done? Or is that even impossible? I don't understand the process well enough to even know.
Well, you guys are sent, we're all sent a copy of the list out of Munis. That's usually Thursday or Wednesday the week before. I always go through it when I get it just to see what's on there, and then you guys approve the list on the next meeting, and then everything that was on that approval list is printed, unless there's some reason why it shouldn't be. Like you guys have a reason to pull one, or a vendor changed the address, or something rare happens, that something will be pulled and held till the next one or the next time it can be printed. But then I get another copy of the dispersal list along with all the checks. I go through and verify that all the checks are there and the amounts are correct, and then we send them out.
But there's not a number. There 23 were approved, 17 were paid, and you say, where's the 5 or where's the 6?
If something's missing, I always call over and ask, and we find out why, and we verify what the reason is. But it's very rare that anything's missing. But I do check that every week.
I think to some degree, the check's gonna be when, if someone doesn't receive payment and they contact us back to go, hey, what's going on? But all right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon to approve, verify, and disperse. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a second by Commissioner Watts. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. Item number 5, receive Wichita County Treasury Report for April 2024. Mr. Jones, the floor is yours.
Fortunately, a little bit abbreviated this week just because of timing. Everything is on the computer,
Yeah.
have as much time to get everything on there. I don't know. Everything required is still on there, but going through every invoice that we clear, or every check that goes out takes a lot of time. And
You're not gonna dazzle us this morning.
No, I didn't have the computer time to do that this week. It was best.
Stephen, before you get into the deal, just saying, would it be, I don't know that we have a chairperson, but I think that, and I already know the investment and have the hours of training and advanced in the certificates to prove it. But isn't it time for me to be replaced like by Barry or Mickey or Jim? And me and Mark served our time and
On
we
the investment
understand
committee?
it. But while we serve as a sounding board for you and Cheryl, and now everybody should get, I mean, we should all have a vested piece of our investment because, I mean, basically, we're so good a shape, we could take off our savings and pay our debt, which is only the jail, and nearly pay it off and walk away. It's close, it's not exactly, but, so we're solid, but I feel like I understand it. And everybody else is, I'm explaining to where it should be their turn and it should be like a revolving door. I don't mind to go to the training because at some point we need it, but I feel like Jim needs it.
So, I think there's 2 things on this. First is, so like, for example, I went to a public funds investment academy last year to get trained up on that. And I think any commissioner can do that on their own. The second thing, Nancy, when did we approve the?
Trying to look it up now.
It was in December. We did
It was in
it.
December?
You guys voted to keep the same 2 commissioners on the
So
investment
we
committee.
do it, but maybe next year, we just make it where
We could just-
everybody.
I don't know
goes
that you have to
around.
wait. I feel like you could probably just do
Yeah, at
an
any
order
time,
and
I
change it
think we
anytime
could.
you want to.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Because I feel like I'm kind of hogging. I like the school. It's all taught by professors. I feel like I gain a lot out of it, but I feel like that I hog so like I know and everybody else just kind of knows. Me and Mark, we don't interact necessarily with Cheryl and they know what to do. We just understand why we're doing it, and then we take test after test after test, and then even compete at school. So we know from who's the smartest and dumbest in the class.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm hogging it. And
The only reason why it would be beneficial to wait until January is because the end of February training is Investment Academy for Beginners. So it's
you're
the
right.
first one is then, you don't have to start there, but that's for beginners or the introductory one.
But now, Stephen, am I missing something? There's two. There's like beginners and then the other.
There's the beginners one in the end of February, and then there's two more PFIA Investment Academy.
Are they different?
deals.
Or are they the
Yes,
same?
They're
Okay.
different. There's always different topics, there's different presenters, a lot of the same ones, because they've got some really good ones. But every one that I've been to, I went to actually did one online last week. That was a new one for us, but it was, there's always something different, something new. And because of the changing environment of the economy and everything that goes along with it, there's always something new to learn at those.
Is that the TAC one in February, or who puts that one on?
TAC does, yeah, it's the TAC Investment Academy, I think is what it's called, and those are the three of them. There's the beginners one, and then there's June, and then November. June, I think, is in Denton or Decatur, and then the one in November is in Houston.
And if you or Commissioner Beecham were wanting to, for example, step off the board for any reason and have, and for us to make a selection to replace, those are happening only at those times of year. I do know that the North Central Texas COG puts on a really good, it's the one that I went to because they were doing it here last summer, but they also put on a 2-day Public Funds Investment Academy. I think they do that 4 or 5 times a year. So I think there's opportunities where
Yeah, there's
we
lots of
could do
different
that if
trading
we-
ones.
if
The one I
we
did
needed
last
to.
week was with Texas Class Investment Pool put one on. It's only like 5 or 8 hours, but it's available, and it was free, so.
And so here's where I'm at. I feel like I'm fully trained and knowledgeable, but I default every second and every square inch to Murphy Davis in the drop of a hat because I don't even begin to know. I'm a kindergarten and he's a doctorate of. Even though we might know the same thing, he just lives in a real world that he practices it. I'm just trained to understand it. So you wouldn't even want my advice compared to his, and he's a junior. His senior is even smarter. So if he said to do the complete opposite, I'd want everybody to do the complete opposite because even though I know, I just am dangerous.
Yeah. You still want a seat at the table, though, because ultimately it's the board that's going to have to set or the committee that's going to have to set the policy parameters. I think I interrupted you.
Yeah, we look at and reset the policy every year, and then you guys vote to approve it every year. That's required.
And that's good. That I can handle. That's just like the fundamental. But when it came to rocky environment and everything's crashing, I don't want to be even suggesting because I would be dangerous. Murphy is like a strategist on that. So I'm not even qualified to be in the room, kind of thing. That's what my point, I
But
guess.
that's why we have his expertise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every time
I
we go to
mean-
look for something or think, okay, we've got this coming mature, let's reinvestment, we always ask him, what do you suggest, what's available, what's the best we can get right now, that kind of thing. So, I mean, we definitely use that now. I don't know how much he was used before, but I'm one that's always looking for smarter people to tell me what they think.
Sure,
So,
I'm with you, Stephen. Me too.
and then we kick it around, and then by the time I bring something to you guys, we've already thought about it for months and have done the best we can, so. It's a little scary at some of these conferences when the super smart guys with their doctorates and the
Shrug.
presidents of this, and they're like, this is kind of what it looks like, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
So if even those guys are scratching their heads on some of it, we're just doing our best.
Right.
Things have been working out so
That's-
far.
And
Quite a
something-
lead in to the report.
But that's not even this report, that's the investment report, this is just the treasury report.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's not a whole lot on here, because I didn't have a whole lot of time doing, all the data's in here is correct. The American National Bank balances, the only thing that I circled on here was the 30th of April was a Tuesday on a payroll week, so I had just brought money in from the investment pool so that we could pay payroll and in the list, and that's why that balance is higher than usual.
And Stephen, it looks like you're continuing what you briefed us on a couple of weeks ago, moving a little bit more into the class account. From
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved another chunk from Tex Pool into Texas class in the general fund. We're kind of getting to where we're about even on those two, because they bring in almost the same interest. You can see the rates there, and just to keep them a little bit separate. And let's see, the balance in debt service in Texas class is enough to cover the September debt payments, so we're good there. Trying to think if there's anything else big on there to look at. It's really not. Most of what's come down in our total cash balance has come down about $3.5 million since the previous month, which is really close to what we pay in payroll every month. So that's where that went, and we're on trend there with it slowly decreasing right now.
Well, if we didn't have to hire help, we'd be in great shape.
Right?
wouldn't we?
Yeah. Always scratch your head a little bit when the biggest expense we have is always payroll. So,
Okay.
so again, not a whole lot to show, but it's all there if you need it.
All right. Does anyone have any questions on the Treasury report for April?
Good report, Stephen.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, item number 6 is discuss, consider, and/or take action on courthouse 2021 renovations proposal request number 85R from M&F Litigant to install secured entry on west side of courthouse, including 6-foot by 6-foot vestibule with metal roof and walls, 3070 HM walk door with electric latch, wall infill for an additional $13,575. I know that, I believe that Commissioner Beecham had put this on per court's request a couple weeks ago to go back, find a different way to do it. Kevin, do you want to talk at all about this proposal or answer questions?
I mean, I'll answer any question. This was the second way we looked at it. The first one was a fenced-in area at the north side of the west entry, and with a 12-foot by 6-foot just overhead canopy. And then they requested to come back in and figure a 6x6 enclosed structure with a metal walk door instead of the fencing and gate. Both of them had electric latches. Both of them were, I mean, it's.
I mean, didn't y'all all visit? I mean, I wasn't, maybe Barry, but all of y'all had a stake in the game somehow, thoroughly vetting what way we went.
In court of 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, we discussed the initial option and then wanted to see what it would look like. I think there was a general thought that the canopy didn't make a lot of sense or was too big and unnecessary to come back and do a smaller structure. Mr. McCannon, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll address this some. When we originally looked at that, it was just a fence gate area, which really all you're doing by putting a fence gate area is you're moving your threat from this side of the gate to this side of the gate. You're moving it over 6 or 8 foot. If you come around the corner of the stairways, there's gonna be a threat either way. I wasn't for that little fenced area because I thought it was a waste of money. I don't think it'll look very nice. They come back with this. This truthfully is exactly the same thing as the fenced area. It's just a metal building with them. And what type of sidewalls does this have on it?
Just R-panel.
Just R-panel, sheet metal.
It's
This
not-
is
It's not
just,
gonna look good.
yeah, this is just a sheet metal tin barn sitting there with a door in it, which all it's gonna do is move your threat level from down in the deal to the top of that gate. If there's gonna be somebody around there, they're gonna sit underneath that tree. And when you walk around the corner of the steps, they're gonna startle you. They could just as easy be there as down the hall. I wasn't in favor of it before, and I'm not in favor of it again. The reason this is on the agenda is because it's part of the security plan that different people brought to this court asking us to do. I don't believe this is a good option, and I really kind of feel bad that MF Litigant had to figure another set of plans for it, because I did talk to Mark about it, and Mark put it on the agenda, but just because Mark put it on the agenda doesn't mean he was in support of it. I'm not gonna vote for him, but I'm telling you, he told me just because he put it on the agenda doesn't mean he supports it. Something that, if you wanna really, in my opinion, and Mark's opinion, if you really wanna try to secure that area better, IT probably needs to run a camera to that little area down the stairs. And we probably need
You're
to put
talking at the back door.
at the west door.
Yes.
We could put
Cement
put
house.
put a camera there and let security monitor that. Maybe put a mirror up there, you know, with one of those dome mirrors so you can see down there before you get in there, you know, coming up or down. And that might be a better way to attach it, you know, a mirror and a camera, and it's not $13,000. I don't know that you want to build a sheet metal tin barn, little storage shed, and put it beside the stairway.
If I might, I think part of this may be a good idea, which would be to enclose the south end of that so that you take away the risk of somebody standing around the corner and having line of sight, you know, down that corridor. You know, that makes sense to me, because then you limit everything to one-way access.
Right.
And not two-way.
And I mean, in the perfect world, that stairway would be going out the south side
Yeah.
and not the north side of that little area. But that might be a major undertaking to do that. With the structure, the foundation of the courthouse, the way those stairs are, I think that would just be a lot of money spent. So I'm just telling you, I don't personally agree with this security measure for the courthouse.
Well, what this came from is we were gonna have a lock on the gate and then a lock on the door within about 6 feet of one
And you
another.
will here also.
Well, I wouldn't be in favor of that then. I mean,
Because
you
I'm
need
gonna tell you-
one- You need one locked mechanism and not
This
two.
is literally just a sheet metal. This is no different than a sheet metal
Yeah.
barn in your
Well,
backyard.
you're just moving the door from down the end of the steps up to the top of the steps, basically.
And you're
The lock and
securing the
door.
courthouse with a 26 gauge sheet metal building, which to me is not a,
And my thought about it is you put the locked door out there on that shed and you take the lock off the one downstairs.
and maybe that's even the case,
Yeah.
but do you really want to put a R panel sheet metal shed next to your granite wall of your courthouse? Is that really what?
Well, I don't know that you gain any security.
I don't either.
Is the thing. And
So,
you're spending $13,000, but what do you gain from it? I don't know that it's helping you.
The only thing, I mean, the thing you gain is you take out
you take out the
down
hole, you
the
take out
hole.
the hole down
Yeah.
there. As
But I think you can do that with a mirror.
well, in a camera. I mean, if security, we have a security that's not afraid to get out and walk around the courthouse.
Yeah.
And they do.
If they
That's
see
good.
something on security, that if they see somebody in that little stairwell, they're gonna go around there and address it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, has there ever been a camera there? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But it would be a great place for a camera. It's a entry and exit point of the courthouse. There should be a camera there.
Now, Mick, I'm of the impression that something's picking up because I've had comment before like, well, now things have changed. When records were there, I've swiped, and then somebody spots me and opens the door and it was records.
Right.
But now all of that could have changed. There could be something that the guys are watching up front are just as much one way as the other that I know about.
I don't think they are, because there's no way for them to watch.
No?
Right.
Records,
Really?
they were there on that level.
Yeah, they were right
They
there.
had a camera there watching.
But I mean,
them
they
run.
actually let you in if you're, like me, had taken your
But when the
key
sheriff's
out.
department there, records actually had a camera on that door. So,
Where's the camera now? We took it out or?
with the remodel, I'm sure it was gone, but there's not one. So I mean, don't get me wrong, security's a big thing. I don't
It
think
is.
this is anywhere gonna help us at all, any more than a camera would in our security staff here at the courthouse. So, I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna make a motion to approve. So,
Will we just table it, Jim?
Yeah, we
No,
can
no
take,
action.
well, no, we don't even have to table, we just take no action.
Okay.
If that's, does anyone have any other comments on this item? Okay, does anyone have a motion? Okay, with no action taken, we will go on to item number 7. Kevin, thanks for putting the plans together. We'll see. Item number 7, discuss, consider, and/or take action on precincts 1 through 5 debit credit card increases and use. This is a follow-up to Friday's conversation? Yeah, to a conversation on Friday about wanting to expand beyond just paying for tags. What the precinct debit cards could be
I mean,
used for.
is there, now, we're kind of creatures of habit, but y'all may go and buy stuff from, like Barry, you always know where everything's at. And so you send the guys to the bearing shop or to the hose shop. We just default, we've got about 6 places, and if it don't come, then we call Barry or
Well,
we
the
call
problem,
Mickey. Or
the problem is we're getting more and more companies that are not having an open account.
Right.
That's really what the discussion is. We had several places we were buying stuff on open account that we don't have access to anymore.
I would,
Yeah, and I'll let Commissioner Buchanan, because he kind of initiated the talk last week, and let him talk about
and
it.
the reason I want to do this is I carry a county credit card in my in my wallet, that I'm being told by the auditor's office to only use it to charge my travel, my rooms, my hotel.
Okay.
Well, if it's a County 2 precinct card, and that's what it is, precinct 2, why is it just at a hotel room? My foreman has a card that he's told that he can only use it at the tag office. Well, why is that? There's more and more businesses out there that will not accept an open account for Wichita County. We've ran into that, no matter what it is, whether they haven't been paid or they weren't paid timely.
But I mean, that's kind of old school. Like, for example.
The old
on
accounts
your-
are old school, yeah.
Well, but what I'm telling you is that I had a disagreement with Atwoods as to what was taxable, non-taxable. So I said, well, I'm gonna go call Tractor Supply, and if they have a difference opinion, I'll just take my issues up with Tractor Supply. Well, what Atwood said was completely different than Tractor Supply, and then I went to her and I said, ma'am, we buy random things at Atwoods, but to my knowledge, we're charging them and they would get a bill. But I said, is that what people still do? She said, oh no. If you have 5 companies in one, or other departments like Ricky or Dwayne that needs to go and do, everybody would have a card. It would say,
Right.
and then if you're at Tractor Supply, you buy the things at Tractor Supply, and then the bill comes itemized by precinct 2, precinct 1, EMO. She said that's what most everybody now is doing.
And that's really where I'm going with this. We put this on there as precincts 1 through 5. I'll be honest with you, my discussion wanted to include other departments, but right now we're addressing precincts. Since this says precinct 1 through 5, I just think that we need to, as a court, we need to approve where we can use precinct cards to purchase wherever we want to purchase them, wherever we want to make a purchase. If they don't have a house account, then we need to charge it. Harbor Freight, for instance, buying tools. If I want to go there and buy some tools that are inexpensive, I can't go buy them because I don't have a credit card that I can use there. But I can go to Lowe's and pay twice the money to buy the same type of hand tools, but only because we have an account there. That's ludicrous. We shouldn't have to waste money like that. I don't disagree that there needs to be some limits on these credit cards, but if you entrust an elected official or you entrust your foreman to have a credit card, why not allow them to use it?
Sure.
Other than just tags. This is a poor policy. Whoever set that policy.
Well, I think the court set the policy, because.
But at the advice of somebody else, because
Well-
I was involved in setting that policy, and I didn't necessarily agree with it at the end.
Yeah, well, and that's why the court
That's why we're talking.
can change, because I think the hotel is for the P cards, the purchase cards. That's a separate thing from
Yeah.
the
But
credit cards.
credit cards are so easily tracked. You can track who's using it, who signs it, there's such an itemized bill. You don't have to worry about necessarily losing a receipt because it's going to come. You're going to have a receipt on that itemized bill that they can track. So it's always there. I just think that we need to move toward letting our precincts have cards that are usable for that reason.
I mean, y'all have, and I know Barry does it, and I know you do it, Mickey. I'm not sure about Mark, but we are the complete opposite. We just we get this, for example, I get a picture of the cleaning supplies. And we go to Dollar General and we buy a picture of each. It's usually a gallon of Pine Sol, a gallon of bleach, whatever Sabina needs. And then we turn in that ticket and we get reimbursed, whether I bought it or Jack buys it. We're not buying a $50,000 part. We charge that at Caterpillar. We're not even putting it on. We don't even attempt to. But the oil we get or the road stuff, we get it from our oil guy. We just don't incur anything, and y'all are more hands-on than, I'm not saying we're not, but we just do 3 things, and that's all we do, over and over and over again.
And I don't think what you're envisioning changes would affect what they're
Not
doing
at all.
and how they're doing.
Doesn't affect anything you're doing. You can still continue to do that.
Okay.
It would just be expanding the.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying, carrying 7 credit cards, we just carry 7 credit cards. We don't ever.
But right now, the reimbursement you just talked about, Jack will go and buy stuff at Dollar General and then put in for a reimbursement. Auditor's office is not here today, but we were notified that if you turn in a receipt that has tax on it, they're not gonna reimburse you for it.
Well, I know, but that's just the protocol of government. I mean,
Well, that's a big deal to me. If I go to,
Well,
if I
tell
buy
them-
$300 worth of stuff at
Well, that's-
Walmart and they say, no, we're not gonna reimburse your tax, well, I don't wanna be out 24
but
bucks.
for example, Mickey, though, Atwoods is like, she thought Atwoods wrote the law in Texas for tax. Where Tractor Supply understands it and says, you're a government, we cannot charge you tax.
Right.
It's the understanding of the entity, so we don't even get, and anything else would be incidental to the cause.
You can call the comptroller's office and get 2 different answers on the same day.
Sure.
I've done that.
It does eliminate,
Yeah.
I think it does eliminate that potential problem if you can just use the county.
And if
Well,
you're
I
using
think
a county
the
credit
bottom
card to
line
buy for
is-
something, they're more likely to not charge you tax
Yeah.
than if you're throwing out your personal credit card to pay for it.
But what if
and
they
then get
charge you
reimbursed.
tax on the card because nobody's, the employee doesn't know and
The
the.
auditor's office can catch that, and if there's tax charged
Re-
on the county, then they can get that. I think
That'd be a
happens
tough
frequently.
deal after the fact. I can tell you right now, that'd be tough after the fact. That's where you have to, if you're the one charging or your foreman charging, they need to know. If they bring that up and there's tax on it, say, oh, no, hold on, this is Wichita County. That's where you're not giving everybody at your precinct a card, you're giving, you know what I'm
See,
saying?
like our dilemma is, for me, maybe not Jack, maybe he sees it different, but I never know I get reimbursed. I just assume it happened. I assume that my check, my payroll check is where the reimbursement. I don't receive a check. I have in the past, only for that thing, and then I went to the bank with it. But now it's part of my payroll, so if I buy a fan belt for the Caterpillar that we had to go somewhere special and get, or Barry said, go to the hose place and get this special hose instead of the Caterpillar hose. And it comes on my paycheck, and I used to get a check for it. And that's,
I
at
do
least
wish
the
that was
check
separate.
I could kind of know, but I'm never out. It's kind of incidental. I'm not gonna spend $10 million doing that. It's just always something.
And what I would also like to do on this, and this would be what I would want to do, go ahead and approve this and change that limit from 200 to 500 per each precinct. But right now, it's only $200. And if I go to buy a pallet of water at Walmart, it's $350, $390 for a pallet of water. You know what I'm saying? It depends
Well,
on what
there's
you're
just
buying.
more and more of these companies don't want to do billing. That's
Right.
really what we're talking about. So they're closing a bunch of these accounts because and I get it, how many people are doing that and they don't want to run a separate department to do that. So,
Right.
I mean, what's the difference in paying a bill or approving it on the credit card bill? I mean, we're still gonna look at it. We're still gonna be in control of it.
Right.
I just think it's a more modern way to operate.
Well, and so tell me this, Barry, this is brand new and I don't know that I understand. So Mickey, if there is a charge to use the card and there is a additional fee on the thing we purchase, how is that addressed in and separate and apart from the lieu of taxes. Let's say I go
The service
into a
fee?
widget store and I buy a widget and put it on the card, well, that makes it 2% more but then I've got a fee on the widget that you bought it with cash for 2% less and I paid 2% more. How are we supposed to handle that? And I never even thought about it till we were talking about tax. And I got into Sunday over Atwood's I didn't know Atwood's wrote law, but apparently so.
On that, the fee, it's part of the purchase price. So I don't know that there would be I don't think that would come into play here.
I could have been doing it for a year and didn't even catch it.
Yeah, and there's some places charge that and some don't.
You're right. Some is like they haven't even done it, not gonna do it, and some want to do it.
I'm not seeing it except like on fuel.
Oh, no, it's
You know,
quite a few places.
Is there?
Yeah.
I'm not, anyway, maybe
He's going to the wrong places.
I'm going the wrong place, or somebody is, yeah.
The law has recently changed where you can do it.
If you're using tax exempt status to buy something, you have to have a tax exempt card or form with you when you make the purchase.
And what kind of card is that one, Stephen,
I'm not
particularly?
100% sure, I'd have to look, or we'd have to ask the auditor's office, but I know there's a form you're supposed to have with you, when you
Well,
make
see,
a
I
purchase
carry-
that's tax exempt, that shows that you're.
I'm with
purchasing for
Barry.
I carry
tax
what's
exempt
called a
product.
timber card, which
That's
is
what-
the
And
ag
that's what
card.
I
Yeah.
use.
It's
But that's
probably the
for-
same thing.
No,
just
it's
for
different.
use.
He's filling out a form like you would go to a hotel
Yeah.
and be exempt from the tax. That's what
But that
Stephen's
form
talking
is,
about.
is vendor specific. On the
It
one
can
that,
be, yeah.
on the one for business, it's vendor specific. So you'd have to have a form filled out for each time you went to, if you went to Atwoods, you gotta have that form filled out for Atwoods. It's different from that timber tag for farm use, cause we all have that, all three of us have that. That you can just carry and it works for any vendor if you're a farm.
Well, at most places.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what it is. There are some things that it does.
And, yeah, and the vendors don't make the law, they just have their own policy. So their company policy could be more strict to protect themselves. That could
But
be
I,
part of what that
like,
is.
first, I didn't even realize this, Barry, and you didn't even know this, I'm telling you, that there's a shop, there's an ag shop, and then the regular shop, and one's ag and one's not. So your shop can be ag one day and regular shop one day it's taxable, one day it's not.
You mean a vendor, like somebody works on our stuff?
Well, let's say you buy a fan and you're gonna use it to work on your tractor. That's exempt. But if you're working on your car, you're not exempt.
See, I'd question.
And
that.
the clerk
I
gets
don't
to
think
pick.
See, I don't think either one of them exempt, tell you the truth, on that deal.
Well,
That's not my interpretation anyway. And I'm very careful about that ag tax deal, and which I think is the same way that this, because I don't mind paying sales tax on a sack of dog food. What I don't want to pay sales tax on is a semi-load fertilizer.
Right.
And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, that's gonna go away, and then we're gonna wish we hadn't done all, and I'm sure our deal's the same way.
But Barry's right about the dog food. I'm totally the opposite. I've got dogs that live in the field that
And they
work
are. They're
specifically
farm
for
animals.
one thing.
See,
Barry's
there's
dog's
my
in the
timber car
backyard.
right there.
Mine's exactly the same. And so I feel offended that my working
You
dogs
don't
are
see
not
my
even
dog.
qualified. But if I had a working horse, it would be qualified.
And I would
That makes
suspect,
zero sense to
Steve,
me.
that county deal would be something like that. Like comptroller does it, I would imagine.
No, it's a separate form for vendor.
I think
I don't know.
We're getting too far.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're off the rabbit trails here.
Yeah, it's
I
not-
think this is not,
It's a different thing.
what we're discussing
Well,
here
it's a
and
tax
what
card.
Commissioner McCann's
Yeah,
talking
no,
about,
it's
we know it's not gonna be a silver
I
bullet.
mean,
No.
you're right. It's a
However,
form that you'd have to-
it would give more flexibility to be able to make those purchases. And there is a court order right now from 2019 that's in place that is limiting to $200 for precincts 1 through 4 and only using it for
And,
vehicle and equipment.
and you want
registration.
to change that, Mickey, to 500?
I want to change it to not be specifically for just vehicle
Yeah.
and vehicle
Yeah.
tags.
So you're making that
Change it
motion,
And do it to, from 200 to 500.
And I'll
That
second
would be my
purpose,
motion.
and I'll second it, Judge.
Okay.
I have no, I mean, I don't even indifferent about it. If y'all use it all the time and we never use it. that-
We're gonna check them, we're gonna audit them anyway, so, I don't know
Sure.
that it's,
So let me make sure that I understand the motion correctly by Commissioner Buchanan. It would be to change the limit for debit card accounts for the road and bridge precincts 1 through 4 from $200 to $500, and would be authorizing those debit cards for any county business related purchase.
Correct.
That sounds
Okay.
good. And we probably better ask Margaret if we can do that.
And we'll have to work with you.
Yeah, I have to work on what it actually
Yeah,
looks
what
like.
it actually, how
And
it works.
Margaret's not here, but I'll
Yeah.
give you a prime example. I buy flags that Margaret tells me, because we've advanced our flag buying from level 1 to level 10. Now Margaret's doing a thread count on the flag, and we don't buy a flag because the pole broke over. It blowed in two halfway up. It's aluminum. Well, I don't know whether to replace the whole flagpole or get a steel one and not aluminum one. Anyway, but Margaret buys my flags. You may want to be the purchaser of your flag. I only feel comfortable if Margaret tells me this is the best flag, because they're only going to last a month. And if you buy a good one, in 2 days if you buy a bad one. I feel like I'm wasting money yet not wasting money. So
There's just something about an American flag made in China.
Nancy, was that clear on the motion? Good, okay. All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Watts. Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion or the item itself?
I call for the question.
All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, at this time, we are going to move into a closed session for a briefing and discussion with the county's IT department regarding deployment or implementation of security devices to enhance the county's network security. This meeting is closed pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.089 for deliberations about security devices. They ask that if you've not been approved to stay in the closed session, that you vacate the room at this time. Thank you.
them up periodically.
Okay.
We're live.
She said you can't harm.
All right, it is 11:49, and we are back in open session.
Which is when
So
you
at this
want to do
time,
it.
our open session item is to take action to approve the purchase of CTSI's proposed M365 migration project with a total monthly cost of $20,494.47, plus a one-time setup implementation cost of $31,870 to be paid from Department 409 with lines determined by the county auditor.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
We've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Watts to approve this purchase. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion or the item itself? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. It is 11:50, and court is adjourned.
Never-